Everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. It's time for the neutral one to return. When it's a game like this, when it's the size of this kind of game, Liverpool versus Man City, Liverpool winning 3-1 at Anfield. It's one of those where I felt like I needed to come back and start talking about the games. Obviously, I'm going to do that when it feels like it's worthy of it, and this was certainly one of those games. Everyone's got a game plan. Everyone's thinking about how they're going to sort of twist it up. Man City obviously struggling with a few centre-back issues, and we'll get onto that very soon. But it was a game where the plan went out the window really quickly because of a huge decision right at the start. I'll get into that in a second. First things first, the starting lineups, and the big one for me, the Liverpool team, picks itself to a point. But the big one for me is obviously the defence and the tactical setup of Man City. Angelino was chosen ahead of Mendy. Mendy not even in the matchday squad. Apparently that was due to tactical reasons. I find that hard to believe when you've got a player of his quality and a player who, they've been desperate to have back for so long. I think it probably was tactical, but to not even have him on the bench, to allow yourselves to twist it up a little bit, I think it highlights the biggest problem that Man City have, which is the heart of that team. And what it highlights, it highlights how this title is not done. Liverpool winning, that doesn't end it all, because what it highlights for me is the importance of losing one player. One single player Man City have lost, and now defensively they look a total mess. A total mess. And the reason for that is because Fernandinho, who has the best defensive brain in that team left over, especially when you take Laporte out, he is so crucial to Man City when they haven't got the ball in that defensive midfield area. And the fact that Laporte has not been in the team, and the fact that Guardiola doesn't trust Otamendi to play, or certainly Otamendi to play with John Stones, means that he's playing the best defensive midfielder as a centre-back. Now, he had an all-right game. I thought he did okay. Obviously, he wasn't able to get to the ball for the second goal to Salah, but I think that's more down to his sort of physical limitations than anything else. But generally, he read the game really well. There was a cracking tackle that he made when Salah looked like he was going to do him for pace. And generally, as a sort of makeshift centre-back, he's doing an okay job. The problem you have is that you're losing two players in a way, because you're not just putting him as a centre-back where you'd rather have someone else as centre-back. You're taking him out of that position. And as good as Rodri is, I still think that Fernandinho, without the ball in the Premier League at this moment in time, against the best teams, against teams that are going to work as hard as Liverpool, Fernandinho needs to be playing in that central midfield position. I don't think Guardiola made a mistake. Obviously, you learn from those mistakes as the game goes on. But I wonder if he had this game to play again, if he would actually play Fernandinho in that defensive midfield role where he is at his best, and took the gamble of, be it Rodri at centre-back or playing Otamendi at centre-back as well, because that played a huge part. What played a massive part as well, obviously, was the handball. Now, I've got it up on my phone here because everyone was talking about it. I'm sure you guys were as well. That handball decision, and I called it as it happened. I went, you watch, they'll score here. They went down the other end. And let's get this bit out of the way. Fabinho, unbelievable finish. Gary Neville and Carragher, I think, being way too harsh on Claudio Bravo in terms of being able to save that. That was unsavable in my opinion. It was right in the corner. He took it quickly. Didn't have enough time to do it. He had players in the way, and it was the one spot he could put it in. It was a cracking finish. But the handball in the lead up to it that Aguero is screaming for right away. Different people are going to have different views on this, and that's the subjectivity of handball as we see it, right? But when I watched it again and again, I then looked at the rules, because me and my mates were talking about it, and we're going, what are the rules? And everyone's got different ideas on it. So I looked it up on the Premier League website, and the bit that made it interesting for me was this, right? So deflections. Premier League players will be allowed extra leeway when it comes to ricocheted handballs. Just making sure I wasn't getting robbed there. Ricocheted handballs. It's often impossible to avoid contact with the ball if it is deflected off the body of an opponent, teammate, or even another part of the own player. So a handball will not be awarded if the ball touches a player's hand, arm directly from their own head, body, foot, or the head, body, foot of another player who is close nearby. The other part of it is about making their body bigger. If the ball hits them and it's in a natural position but they're not making their body bigger, then it's not a handball. Also, of course, people will be screaming right now, they'll be talking about Bernardo Silva and it touching his hand first. Now, in terms of like the ricochet element of it, for me, the Bernardo Silva handball is not a handball. This is my opinion on it, right? But then when you see the ball go to Trent, that ricochet from Bernardo Silva to Trent Alexander-Arnold, for me, is not close enough for him to not have time to react. He has got time to react. And in my opinion, although his arm is down, I feel like he makes his body bigger to get the handball. Well, he doesn't want to handball it, but he's wary of the ball and he goes towards the ball and he makes his body bigger. All of this is obviously just huge subjectivity that makes it very difficult to make a decision. But for me, watching it, I would have given a handball to Man City and that would have totally changed the complexion of the game. Would Liverpool got back into it? Probably. I think they probably would. And I think what we've learned today is just how much this Liverpool side want it, how much of a team they are without the ball. Because it felt like going on to the rest of the first half, Man City did create chances. They will always create chances, but you're going to have to be able to put your body on the line, look to defend as best as you can, and then try and hurt them at the other end, right? Raheem Sterling had a great chance. Aguero had a chance. Angelino hit the post. But when I was watching the game, Aguero time and again looked isolated and surrounded by this Liverpool team that were just working so hard. The big thing for me is the focus has got to be on Man City here. Liverpool were good, but Man City, I think, overall, were the core of them. They have no core stability. This is what I would say about Man City. Because if you take Fernandinho out of that centre midfield position, I don't think they realised how much they miss him as a driving force, as a leader, as someone who sets the tempo with the ball, as someone who reads and snuffs out problems without the ball, and then you're left with Rodri and Gundogan, who are not as good, don't have the same energy, and certainly in games against Liverpool, against Fabinho, I thought was brilliant, Henderson, and that hard-working midfield that Liverpool have, and the front three who worked their socks off as well, you're then struggling because you've got to match them for work rate. And Man City, they're about control. You saw that in the last 20 minutes of the game. Liverpool got a little bit nervous. The quality of Bernardo Silva with that finish was fantastic. Raheem Sterling I felt sorry for because you could see he was starting to lose his head a little bit. He just struggles in those Liverpool games. I think he's so desperate to impress. He's aware of the situation, obviously. But I thought he was far too much for Trent today. There's always been so much talk about Trent defensively, and I would say he's a kid. He's still a kid, so he is getting better as a defender. And Raheem Sterling he really is world class now. Every time he got the ball, he was looking to do something, and generally did. And in another game, there's at least one penalty you could give him for the push. I think it would have been harsh. But time and again, he was far too much for Liverpool on that side. I thought De Bruyne was quiet. I thought they kept him quiet, Liverpool, and they did well in that sense. But overall, it was one of those where those goals change games. The second goal, I've got to say, was, as much as it was maybe a little bit easy in terms of getting the switch across, that was really quick play where Liverpool didn't give Man City a chance to get themselves sorted out, switch the play. Man City are trying to keep themselves together in a straight line there, and then they've got a cross in and got it in behind them early, and it was just superb from Robertson and superb from Liverpool in the fact that they've really developed a team where you've got two fullbacks who are just so creative for that team, so creative for that team. And Henderson as well. Everyone contributing. Those players that you think, it's not going to be down to them. Henderson with an incredible cross on that right-hand side. Again, you're seeing the energy from this Liverpool team. I think that's the difference for me. You've got leaders in that Liverpool team. You've got energy in that Liverpool team. And you've got a team that is happy and hungry to defend when they haven't got the ball. The title's not over. Of course it's not. Because if you take Van Dijk out of that team, and if he gets injured and that happens, then, like Man City with Laporte, it's a different game. It's a different ball game. It's a different team. Other teams will smell blood. And I've said it before, I will say it again. This is the best Premier League in terms of quality for me ever. I think that's why you're seeing Spurs and Arsenal struggling against teams, because not because as much because they're struggling, but because these other teams in the Premier League are very, very good. The points tally of previous years, I still think Liverpool will have a blip at some point. It's inevitable, but I think they've proved time and again, and I said it at the start of the week, I felt like Man City would win this one. They got a few rubs of the green, definitely, Liverpool, but they have the substance to go all the way. And if Man City aren't careful in the next couple of months, this could be dead and buried. And I think for the first time, unless something really crazy happens, this is Liverpool's title. They want it too much. The whole squad is so switched on. It's a smaller squad. You've got competition in every position, but at the same time you have clear leaders throughout the pitch, and they look so good. Guardiola is obviously going to be fuming. Klopp was even being fuming as well. This is one of the first games where I was a little, like the goal, I thought he was overreacting for that, but that's what Klopp does sometimes, but it's also part of the brilliance of him. But for Man City to spend the money that they've spent, to have 100 million quid's worth of fullbacks on the bench, and to not have a centre-back there ready to go, it's a massive mistake. A massive, massive mistake. And if you were in that position where, right, you're going to lose one, for you not to have the faith in someone like Otamendi is a massive problem, and a huge error on Guardiola's part. You've got to say that. That's down to him. You knew Company was going. You needed to replace him. And you've got the money to spend. So from that point of view, it's outrageous. So those are my thoughts. The neutral one has returned. If you've enjoyed it, if you want me to do more, hit the like button and let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the handball. Was it a handball for you? And do you think Liverpool have got it done and dusted now, or do you see a few twists and turns along the way? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Got some wicked videos coming very, very soon. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. And I'll see you soon.